Hello, my name is Brant. My channel is Discerning What is True. That is on YouTube, and I am doing a live broadcast today. How they fooled us with the oil scam. It's a direct here on the 30th, not the 30th, but the 31st day of March 2022. So this is not an April Fool's joke. This is the truth. So let's talk about how this situation has gotten the way it is, because I recall as a little boy putting gas into customers' gas tanks in their vehicles in the 1970s, and the gas prices were 32 or 33 cent. In fact, they were generally in that mark for a long, long time until the oil embargo took place. This is kind of like what I would call a psyop. Um, there was a gentleman named Lindsey Williams who is no longer alive. He was on an Alex Jones show probably over probably 15 or 20 years ago, and they were talking about the whole oil scam. We have selected people in office who desire to destroy everything this country's about, or elsewhere. And part of that simply is the oil scam. Our refineries are made for what they call light, L-I-G-H-T, crude oil, which is found here in the United States. The oil that's found in the Middle East is what you call, is not light. It's actually a heavier oil in order to make gasoline. So what we do here in America is that we say we don't have any oil here when that's all a lie, and it benefits those who actually they destroy the small outfits, what they call wildcatters, who go out and discover oil and take a risk, and it benefits those at the top. That's what it's all about. And there were many oil companies way back. Let's go back. Oh, let's just go back. 70 years ago, 60 years ago, 50 years ago. There were plenty of oil companies, gasoline companies here in America. And you'll notice that simply is there's less competition. There's less companies that are involved who actually sell their own gas or their own oil. So the whole lie simply is that the United States is reliant on Middle Eastern oil. Now, far more now, probably than what it used to be. Venezuela used to be, I think, close to 15 to 20% of what we got our foreign oil from, but that's all changed when Venezuela has fell apart here in the last 3 4 years, and so we don't buy oil from them, or we claim we don't. Who knows? So we're buying oil, even though we have oil here on our in our country, in Alaska, elsewhere. And Lindsey Williams pointed out simply is that he recalls simply is the story that he visited a man in Wyoming, and he saw a oil pipeline, and that oil pipeline was being used, and eventually, within less than a year, the government came in and said you have to shut the oil down. Now, I don't know if that's to do with the petrodollar or not. I'm trying to connect the dots here. We know that President Nixon in 1971 or 72, we had to get off the issue of getting what we call the dollar was beginning to have issues, and people didn't want the dollar anymore, so they had their dollars and they wanted to buy gold. And so what they were doing simply, they're transferring their dollars, that is dollars, and getting gold for them. And this set off a major deal. And these things don't happen by accident, folks. They just don't. It's done purposely. Franklin Roosevelt says that very clearly in one of his quotes. If things happen, they happen for a reason. They were done for a reason. That's a synopsis of it. So what's transpired simply here is that it's made the United States more dependent on foreign oil, and we are no longer in control of our own destiny. And that's the whole story of this whole country in the last 50 years. We're no longer in control of our own destiny. We used to manufacture many things. We don't manufacture things like, a shirt, clothes. This is no longer made in the United States anymore. Okay. Like what's behind me. You see those are book cases, and those bookcases are furniture. We don't manufacture our furniture anymore. You see, it's a bad thing to cut down trees. Well, it's a bad thing to cut down trees and not plant them. That's the problem, and that's what's occurring. Uh, Being good stewards means simply is yes, yes, you can cut down trees. I don't have a problem with that. The problem is simply is that you cut everything down, and we have people who are developers. I've got to get off the sidetrack, but I want to just point this out. We have developers who go and buy land, and there's trees there, and they maybe let's just say this is for example, let's just say 20 acres, and they mow all the trees down, all of them, every one of them. They don't selectively choose the bigger ones, such and such. They don't do this type of thing. And so what's happening simply is that they destroy all of it. So, and they don't replant. So that's not being a good steward. Indians used to do what I call be good stewards. We don't seem to learn that, do we? I had a conversation with someone on Facebook today, and the guy was arguing about everything. Well, we have to mow the trees down simply to have farms. We don't have to have farms in that way. What are people, or what side of the moon are you from? I mean, where are you coming from? I'm talking about developers. Developers are people who come in and either making a housing development or building a plant, so to speak. So they mow it all down. That's what they claim. So back to the story of the oil. The oil deal is key with Lindsey Williams when he shared this information, and that there were a group of 7 companies that were involved. And the major one was Arco, Atlantic Richfield Company. It's no longer in business, as far as I know, or been bought out. And so this was the major leader who took over such and such. And Lindsey Williams went up there, such and such, and he went back to Wyoming. And what happened simply is that they cut the oil pipeline down. They stopped it. You see. And so we became dependent upon foreign oil for no reason. It was just an excuse. But it benefited those who invested for whoever these other oil companies. It influenced and helped people like George Bush and his family, you see, because they were invested in some companies in the past. Like one was Armico, I think it was a Mexican company. George W. Bush was involved in that. And they bought certain oil fields in the Middle East. I don't know if they're still in existence or not. That's not the point here. So what happened was simply is we became dependent upon that. We no longer have control of our destiny, and that's the problem. Simply is when you do that, you become a slave nation. You become slaves because you're dependent upon foreigners to build something for you. You're dependent upon a certain chip, quote unquote. That's the automobile companies need, but they build that product, you see, in Korea, South Korea. And so with that, simply it benefits them because simply is they because this is all about commerce, folks. It's all about economics. Every bit of it is, you see, and it benefits. Oh, we can pay less money to a Korean than we can for American to work in a job, you see. So this is how they do this. We have our rice or whatever, such and such. Used to grow it here. I don't know many rice plantations anymore in this country. But the point simply is that we've gone into a dependency issue here. And when you're sovereign as a country, you grow your own, you build your own, that type of thing. So this whole idea of fracking is another issue. I talked with someone else also from Britain today, shared something. Fracking is enormously, enormously environmentally destructive to the water basin under the earth, period. It's a way to destroy the water reserves underneath the crust of the earth. It's as simple as that. And so I see that Britain is thinking about going back into fracking. And see, the government allows this stuff. This is what you got to understand. They allow the most polluted companies to operate. And fracking is damaging not only the water, it also is a possibility because they put chemicals into the fracking operation, which actually destroys the water supply in order to extract a little bit of oil, so to speak. You see, just a little bit of oil. It's not productive here. Instead of actually doing something that's actually beneficial, this is all talk, folks. All this about we're wanting to be sustainable. That's just a fiat word. It doesn't have any meaning behind it. We want to be sustainable. All that bullshit. We never had that word 60 years ago, folks. You know what? We were far better off back then than we are now because simply this is these crony people who don't care anything about life on this planet. All they care about is greed, greed, and greed over and over again. And so they're destroying everything that's good. And what's this planet about? And it's all, you see, and I'm getting a little angry, such that I have to cool myself down a little bit. But the point simply is that so the fracking is coming back into England. They want to think about doing this again, such and such. Since we are not getting oil from Russia or whatever, Well, I can tell you the story, folks. This happened only about a week and a half ago. Russia sent a oil tanker to the coast of Maine, and the government refused to take that oil from that ship because it was a Russian ship. So we're already at war with Russia here. Our imbecile idiots, and that's what they are. They want to create another war. Is what they want to do because the defense industry people want us to see how good our weapons work or not work, such and such. But it's always a loss of life. You don't have to fight for your country here, folks, anymore because there is no country. This is nothing but a corporation fighting another corporation somewhere else. There is no good guy or bad guy. Both are trying to, quote unquote, get as much as they can, you see. So there's not a good cop, bad cop here. And what I mean by that, we put now, I see this whole headlines on Facebook, and they uplift Putin as though he's some great person. Folks, he's just an actor. He's just an actor. That's all he is. Just, this is what they do. They play this game with you, and you can't figure it out. You don't remember anything because you watch that blooming television is what you do. You think that's where the truth is, and it's not there. Never has been. It's used to program you. So back to this whole situation of where we're at is that we're putting ourselves in a worse situation than we were even before. And so the idea is that, who's left? I mean, think about the oil companies that are left. All right, there's Exxon Mobil. So Exxon and Mobil merge. These were two oil companies, they merged. Okay. There's a company that used to be called Humble, Humble Oil Company. There were many oil companies in the past. And they're all gone. Phillips 66 and Conoco merged. You only have 4 or 5 major players now in the oil fields, in the oil business. So most of the refineries here in the United States do what they call a light crude oil, was made for this particular hemisphere. We've never been out of oil, folks. Never have. It's a scam. It's a way to come in and artificially raise the prices of your fuel. There's plenty of oil there, everywhere, folks. There's plenty enough in oil in Alaska for thousands of years, as Lindsey Williams spoke about. Actually, there's a larger reserve there than there is in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia. You're being lied to about everything. And you the one are harmed because they want it this way, because they choose to do this. And it's another example simply is, if this whole situation with Russia and Ukraine is true, which is not, Russia itself has tons of oil reserves, but guess who explored these reserves? It was the American companies in the past, and so is and actually in the Middle East also. There's plenty of oil, always has been, but they're using this a way to, quote unquote, to bring their agenda in. Their agenda is to bring, let's go to electric cars. Let's go to electric cars. I'll tell you what actually pollutes the earth or causes problems is the diesel engine is far more stronger, yes, in pulling things, but its exhaust is harmful far more than a gasoline engine is. Get behind a diesel engine truck or whatever and the exhaust, and you struggle just to breathe. And the gas engines is nowhere near the exhaust harmful. Just think about it. Why is this? Why is such a? Here's another question. Why is not the government, quote unquote, they're all against the gasoline engine, such and such, with cars, but there's nothing mentioned about trucks or tractor trailers and such. Why is that? You're the bad person, you see. But there's only a selected few, you see. This is how this thing works. You're a bad person, but the other guy over here is driving a truck or such and such, a diesel truck. And I'm talking about big trucks, pull trailers and that type of thing, 18-wheelers. They're not punished. And yet they do more damage than a gasoline engine does. And in fact, why don't we just go back to rail? Rail itself, railroads are far more efficient than any of it is. Purely more efficient by far than tractor trailers. It is. It can move more products with less energy wasted. Anyway, I wanted to share that with you simply because I feel it's important you understand simply is that the oil from the Middle East is a completely different oil than the oil here in America. There's a ton of oil here in America, but the government, with what we call traders within our own country, leaders who actually are looking for money, are ways to also cause harm to mankind in every way he can, which he's not following natural law. He's disobedient to that. And in fact, he is simply causing harm to those who are seeking no harm. Think about these things. I appreciate you listening. Again, if you have a question or a question, I'll try to answer it for you. Thank you, and you have a good day.